Good morning. Good morning. This is Kendall Askins from Stimulating Minds. Askins stimulates on all of our social media. And I am joining you for another Rethinking Math. And today I want to talk to you about something called learned helplessness. So, in education, but also in the world, we hear words like resilience, right? Grit, perseverance. And we look at these things as very positive, and we want our students to exhibit these characteristics. But often when we are in the classrooms or even outside in the world, whenever something challenging comes up, we often do not see these characteristics, right? We see children giving up. We see people not trying. And so when I really think about this, I'm like, it has to be something more than just coincidence, right? That we have a whole generation that really is not interested in pushing through some difficult things. And so what I have come to realize is there's something called learned helplessness. And I'm going to tell you a little story. So this had to be maybe my second or third year teaching. This is a true story. My classroom, I always required excellence from my students, always held high standards, and my tests were not given in advance. Some teachers, they like to give review sheets or sheets that look exactly like the test, just different numbers, things like that. No, I would teach my children. They would work really hard in class. And then the test, they would get questions that they had never, ever seen before, right? So I was teaching this advanced class, 8th grade. They were learning algebra, which is a 9th grade class. And I was giving them on their test, like Regents questions, right? So I had a student in my class, a little girl, who had up to that point, always gotten high 90s in math, always got high 90s in math. And first marking period came, and in my class, she had a low 70, right? Now, I had been in contact with her mom. I had been working with the student. She was very upset, having a hard time. And that was very common in my classes, is many children who had coasted through, when they got to my class, they often were met with a challenge, right? Because I wasn't just having them work on procedure and memorize. I was actually having them learn concepts and figuring out how to apply. So it's very common to have like that learning curve until they figure out how to study, how to help themselves, those type of things. So anyway, true story. The mom comes marking period 1 to parent-teacher conference with all of her child's report cards, all of them, right? And mind you, prior to this, I had been working with the student, telling her, it's okay, it's all right, you're still passing, here's where you're struggling, let's work on this, let's find the issues, whatever. And she was crying, my mom's going to be so upset with me. I'm like, your mom's not going to be upset with you, you're trying your hardest. Her mom comes to parent-teacher conference with all of her report cards from the time she was like in kindergarten all the way up to that point. Mind you, she's in 8th grade. And she walks into the room to meet me, right? And she lays each report card out in front of me. And she says, my child has never gotten below a 95 in mathematics, so you must be the problem. What? I said, I'm sorry, what? She said, look at this. You must be the problem. You need to change your grade. You don't know what you're doing. Clearly, you're brand new to this. You're this young person. You don't even know how to teach. This is what she's saying to me, right? I'm like, parent-teacher conference is for us to figure out how to work together to help your child be successful, not for you to attack me and my character. And I couldn't believe, right, that I was experiencing this. And I stayed calm and I said, well, actually, I do know what I'm doing. Here are some of the things. And I also offer tutoring these times. This is what your daughter could do. And if we work together, I'm sure she'll do fine. Well, that student ended up, the mom wanted to, I guess, prove me wrong, right? So she decided she was going to take advantage of all the supports that I offered. The student was going to do all the work, everything that I said. That student not only ended the year in the 90s, right? She blew her Regents out the water. She got a really high score on the Regents. And at graduation, that mom couldn't even look me in my face. I've developed an excellent rapport with that student. Brilliant student, right? So proud. But what she learned was that she was going to work, right? There was not going to be this idea that she couldn't do something and that I was just going to feed her the answers so then she could have success. She had to work for it. And so often in classrooms, in life, what happens when we see the students struggle is we feel bad or we blame ourselves and we want to rescue them and we run to rescue them. And had I run to rescue that child, that student, she never would have, number one, appreciated her success the way she truly appreciated it, but she also would not have learned the skills necessary to have that success on her own, right? That grit, that perseverance, that resilience that she learned when she wasn't having the success that she was used to having, and then she was able to have it, nothing like it, right? So those words, grit, perseverance, resilience, those are not things people are just born with. When you experience something difficult and you figure out how to get through it with the supports, that's when those skills are developed. And we have to be extremely mindful as people are going through that we're not just looking to rescue or get them out of something or take them out, because that's where the learned helplessness is. So I have students that will sit and just say, I don't know, right? And not even try. And so for me, any students that I work with, especially in mathematics, that is not an option. It is not okay for you to tell me you don't know. What's your question, right? And so I'm going to challenge you today as we're rethinking mathematics, and just in life if you want to in general, but specifically when it comes to math, is ask those questions, right? Figure out that support and recognize if you are someone that is enabling learned helplessness, right? Are you enabling someone to be able to sit and just give up or not try? Are we just feeding answers? Here's the answer, just copy this down. No, that should never be the case. And if you find yourself in that type of moment, make sure you reach out. Stimulator Minds is always here to help support and push that learning forward. But remember, learned helplessness is very real. And the same way that you can learn helplessness is the same way you can learn grit, perseverance, and resilience. And that's the side of the spectrum that we want to be on. So let me hear some examples of how you have learned how to be resilient throughout, and maybe specifically in math. And I look forward to seeing you guys back here next week for another Rethinking Mathematics. Bye-bye.